Now, we've been talking a lot about the CS2 economy as an overall space, but the truth is things are still really good, and that's because it's very interesting right now. If we want to look at our 30-day graphs, every single item all across the board is up. It doesn't matter if it's extremely expensive like $10,000, expensive at $500, or relatively cheap at just $50 for a very expensive and desirable skin. And this is very interesting because our CS2 market cap is once again approaching that $5 billion mark. It's something we saw a peak at very earlier, then we saw a massive drop down, and that pullback has been really interesting because we're almost back to the price we were sitting at beforehand, less than 2.5% away from an all-time high. And if we want to look at all the items in the past 7 days, prices have pretty much stabilized all across the board. We're talking about everything being within 5 to 10% of that price it was sitting at beforehand, which is still a little volatile depending on the item you're looking at, but it's significantly more stable than what we were seeing beforehand. The truth is, things could not be going better for the CS2 economy right now as a whole, and that's going to have some pretty massive impacts for what we've got coming up with everything talking about the major and the case investing market and everything to do with this area. Skinland is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free $10 on your first trade. It's where I personally sell my skins because you're going to be getting the highest rate out there. They're offering a maximum amount of money in a minimum amount of time, and it's going to be nearly instant with tons of different payout options. Combine that with their massive marketplace where you're going to be able to buy anything in the entire game you're looking for with a ton of different deposit options here as well. Right now, this is the #1 place to go ahead and sell or buy skins in my personal opinion, so go ahead, use code MasterShiny and check them out today. Now, talking about everything for the Austin Major, if we want to look at it right here, we can see that the games are currently ongoing, and right now you have the opportunity to make your playoff picks because this round has just ended. However, if we want to talk about the capsules themselves, there is a lot to break down inside of this specific area. First up, the ROI on these things has absolutely demolished what we were seeing previously. These are extremely low. We're looking at 66.7% maximum, and that's going to be for the contenders, which what we said is probably going to be the most interesting moving forward, being that it has 16 teams inside of it. There is a lot of opportunity for just a couple of these to be really expensive. That's exactly what we're seeing inside this area. Otherwise, the Legends is not too far behind, but the Challengers has completely dropped out. That's because the Falcons Hollow is really just worthless at this point compared to what it was previously, and there's not really any other really valuable teams inside of it. Now remember, when that 75% off sale does come, there's still a huge profit opportunity because these ROIs are over 25%, which is the minimum that they need to be in order to make that strong profit when that sale comes, because obviously the ROIs are going to 4x. However, there is definitely not a ton going on inside this area right now. I think we're going to be really seeing a huge drastic drop off for people opening up these Austin Challengers, Contenders, and Legends sticker capsules because there's really no point to right now. ROIs are abysmal, and honestly, the hollows and the stickers inside of them don't have a ton of demand in the current price point. Now, about 2.5 months ago, Valve went ahead and introduced one of the biggest updates we've seen in a fair amount of time. That's bringing in these 3 brand new collections of Radiant, we've got Boreal, and we've got Ascent. Now, what's very interesting about these is obviously they brought a brand new level of skins that are being able to get dropped. They look good, they feel good, and once again, the most important part, they're quite expensive, and that's very interesting, and that's what I want to focus in on because these skins have actually retained a lot of their value. Now, obviously, your top tier skins have dropped down a little bit because people are doing trade-ups for them. However, if we're talking about the average unboxing ROI of these overall, they're down less than 25 to 30% in the span of just a couple months, which is actually not that bad. If we want to talk about it, on average, you're getting about 50 cents a skin, which is crazy high considering the previous highs were 12 cents. That's what we were seeing. That's what we see now for the other 4 collections that are still from the old previous area. It's a really interesting area, and it's a lot of money that is being pumped into the game for absolutely free. It's a really good opportunity, and it's going to be very interesting to see if these prices are sustained moving forward because this has major impacts on investing, especially at a lower end. Now, in a very similar sense, we have the area of filler skins. Now, we talked about filler skins as an investment opportunity, specifically with these light blues from the Train collection. We're not going to go too deep into them, but once again, they are there. I think they're a very strong opportunity because we never are going to see some light blue skins coming back inside of this area, and honestly, I think it's going to be very successful because at this current point, there is no applicable competition inside of this area, and honestly, the prices haven't exploded that much, so people are still using these. It's overall a great position. But the one area that's very interesting is the blue skins. That's because 2 of these collections that are still dropping, and these are perfectly applicable, perfectly useful blue filler skins, which is very impactful because that's why this area, the blue filler skin market is a little bit different. We've got a couple that are discontinued, and we've got a couple that are still dropping. But if we want to look at these 2 collections, Dust 2 and Safe House are both from 2013, the start of the game. If we want to look at the collections overall, they are clearly the odd man out, as if we want to look at this, we've got 2018, 2019, and then 2025. I think it's a very strong possibility that Valve is going to be looking at this area moving forward and saying, what if we do go ahead and get rid of these 2 collections? Like we just mentioned previously with the Ascent, the Boreal, and the Radiant, that's a lot of value that's being brought into the game for absolutely free, and I think honestly, a lot of that value ends up making its way into Valve's pocket. They have a very strong incentive to keep these collections that are extremely valuable because the money ends up going back collect them eventually, whether it's through cases or what else. And I think it's a very strong possibility that we do end up seeing these Dust 2 and Safe House collections removed. Not today, not tomorrow, like I mentioned, but in the future, I think it's a strong possibility. Then we're going to be talking about a huge potential opportunity in a quick second, but talking about our cheaper rare cases right now, things are starting to stagnate out, which is really, really good considering if we want to look at the past month for nearly every single one of these cases, they are up drastically. Our Snakebite, our Clutch up 25% in the past month. And honestly, if we want to look at a 1 year for all of these cases, they have had an insane piece of growth. Looking at the unboxing numbers and looking at the fundamentals though, that's where I really want to focus in on. We are seeing crazy demand for these cases, relatively speaking, compared to the supply. The supply on these things are running out. Our Snakebite and our Clutch, once again, are really going down in supply so drastically. Obviously, they've got a lot of back supply, but the truth is they're still on a very, very profitable trajectory, honestly, relatively speaking, when we're talking about this demand. Now, these price points have gone up so much because of this, but it doesn't necessarily make it a bad investment. Fundamentals wise, at least, we don't know the price you're buying at, but fundamentals for all of these cheaper rare cases right now are off the charts. We are seeing such high, crazy demand, such high overall impact from these cases, and I don't think anything is really going to be getting much worse inside of this area. I think there's a lot of strong future on the horizon for every single one of these cases looking at the fundamentals, which is a really positive outlook and something that's really nice considering the fact is the prices are stagnating and these cases are just getting better by the day. Now, one area I've been seeing increasingly interest in is going to be this 7 case group right here. It's the active duty plus the purchasable. They're kind of grouped together overall, but I will not be talking too much about the Fever and the Gallery case. We've talked about them a lot, and honestly, they're in the armory, and I don't think they'll be going anywhere anytime soon. However, these 5 cases right here are very interesting. A lot of people have really been focusing in on this Dreams and Nightmares case. In the history of this game, there has never been a more expensive active duty case than the Dreams and Nightmares case, at least for a prolonged level, which is absolutely insane. And that's really interesting why so many people are trying to make an investment into it right now. I think, in my honest opinion, there's a huge opportunity cost with this. It's a very volatile case, and although it is the only active duty case to go over 100% profit in the past year, I don't think honestly making an investment into an active duty case thinking it's going to stay in the active duty is where the profit is. I think it's getting in on a case that's going to get removed, and right now the Dreams and Nightmares does not offer that opportunity in my personal opinion. Then you've got your Kilowatt and your Revolution. Both of these cases I think are just a little bit too new to be getting removed unless we see an overall insolvency of the whole active duty system, and I don't think that's going to happen. Otherwise, you got the Recoil, you got the Fracture case. These are the two that honestly, if you're going to make an investment into the active duty, I think are probably going to be your best bet. Recoil and Fracture really run into one major problem, and that's going to be the supply. If we want to look at the Clutch and the Snakebite, when they got removed, they shot up in price significantly, and they lost nearly all of that value. That's because the supply was just too overwhelming. People took advantage of this price spike because they've been sitting on so many of these cases. I think it's a very strong opportunity with these Recoil and these Fracture cases, but that's a long-term opportunity. Short-term, I don't necessarily know, and honestly, it might not be a bad idea to wait for them to get removed if we do see that peak and collapse and then buy after that collapse. It's my personal opinion, what I'm probably going to be doing, but make your own decisions. That's all I got with these watching. Have a great rest of your day.